Hey everyone, it's time for Nerdy Talk. I'm Mike Furr, and I'm joined by the following people.
Dorian Chadwick.
Matt Brown.
And I'm Buck McTuckin, here with the latest cheese.
Alright, Buck McTuckin.
Here with everybody's cheese.
And French fried potato cans.
That's right. Has not even tweeted in months.
Alright, anyway, start off, I'd like to kind of keep going with the theme that we've had. Once again, I'd like to ask you one of your favorites of the non-traditional things. Basically, I want to know what your favorite under-the-radar show is. Something that you've seen, you love, but no one else really has.
I don't have a personal favorite that's under the radar. I think everyone's seen everything I've ever talked about or seen before.
That's totally okay. We don't feel superior to you.
I do, but that's mostly because I have issues.
But what I might say that's under the radar I haven't heard a lot talk about is, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of it. It's called Hero Tales.
I have heard of that.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, don't see it. It's like,
Good to know.
it's like generic, on top of more generic, top of more generic, and the worst part is it's not even animated well.
Knowing Japan, I'm guessing it's also not a hero tale.
Is that the show with Master Asia or something like that? The one that looks like Master Asia?
Master Asia. I don't
That's right.
remember.
Asia. It makes me think a little bit of this one from Media Blasters that I started ages ago called something like Fortune Quest, and it looked like a cute fancy romp on the surface, but they never actually fight any of the monsters, and all the heroes do is run away and do nothing heroic. It was terrible, and I had to quit after one disc because it was just that bad.
Yeah.
That's-
Now that we have the internet, we can quit after just one episode. It's so much
That's
better.
Right.
Mm.
Making progress.
Remember those days when you bought tapes, and no matter what, you were stuck with that for like until you get up to get a new tape. So
Well, I didn't buy any tapes, so no.
3 episodes for $30.
Ugh.
or if it was Viz, it was 2 episodes.
That's right. Just because they loved/hated their customers.
2 episodes.
Here's one I s-
Imagine if there was today 2 episodes of Bleach at $30 a pop.
That would be a heck of a cost.
Gee, guys, I wonder if there'll be any Bankai in this episode. You could pretty much fill up an entire room with one-piece VHS tapes like that, so
A room if you're lucky.
you'd be trying to basically cart them around on a forklift.
Yeah, 200 plus VHS tapes. No, thank you.
Let's see.
Yeah.
One Piece would be up to about 350, give or take. Over 600 episodes, two for $30.
Oh man, yeah.
Nobody
I'm only
likes pirates that much.
I'm only like 200 episodes in, and I haven't watched any in about 2 years now.
You are so behind.
Yep. I'm looking forward to getting to the point in the Romance Dawn 3DS game where I have no idea what the hell's going on anymore.
Well, to be fair, isn't Romance Dawn the first actual story from One Piece?
It starts from the very beginning, but apparently it goes up pretty far, well past what I've seen, though it apparently skips the Skypiea arc for some reason. And that's basically what I've seen just past.
They probably skipped it to make it palatable to the West.
They could have.
Because isn't that the arc where they basically go up to heaven and kill God?
Yeah, pretty much. God turns out to be an asshole who wants to destroy the whole world with his magical arc named Deathpia. And then he gets the living crap kicked out of him because it turns out he's made out of lightning, so only the main character who's made out of rubber can punch him. It's like magical
sounds
logic
great.
that only works in One Piece.
Yes, it is.
At least it's a good game, so...
I still have to pick that up. I really
Yeah.
should before I can't anymore.
Yeah, I managed to get copy number 5,512 out of the 16,800 copies they printed. The whole story sequences are always very sort of overly lengthy and simplified compared to the anime, just because there's so much to condense, but the gameplay is really good.
Good to know.
Yeah, you get sort of simplified dungeon crawling and good character development, while combat is kind of like Melee future tactics, where you get to enjoy kicking characters into the walls and into each other and things like that. There's a good combo system, so it's satisfying and fun, and all original Japanese audio. Good music too.
So what's the opening? I take it it's We Are?
Oh, it doesn't have a vocal opening. Apparently it did in Japan, but I think they just cut all of the vocals out of the version here. I'm not sure what the name of the song is over here originally, but I mean it works for sort of what it is, but it's just very dramatic with lots of cuts to everybody with tears streaming down their face. Inevitably spoilers about what happens to Luffy's brother, and then sort of general cutaways to Luffy beating the crap out of every major villain in the series as he flies through the air.
Oh, so it got tails in terms of the opening.
Yeah, basically, about what you would expect out of a Namco Bandai release.
Well, I can't say
Yeah, it
tails.
sounds more like Sony Computer Entertainment America. It's like, everybody remember the amazing vocals that played on the Wild Arms 2 opener and ending? Yeah, nobody else does either.
Yeah, you just get a bunch of generic background music that plays there instead.
Yeah, a trumpet is so much better. Cheesy trumpet.
Although at least they kept the basic compositions.
Yeah.
I mean, Michiru Yamane is fantastic.
They just made a
regardless.
karaoke version.
Exactly.
That's right. You're intended to sing along and make up the words as you go.
That's right, gents. I'm calling it karaoke.
Otherwise known in the Southwest as simply croaky.
Crew.
That's about the sound people make when they get up there.
Yes, they do.
Because they're drunk.
Yeah, I don't think it would be any different if they were sober. You know what I'm saying? Might even be worse. You never know.
God.
Getting back on topic, how about you, Matt? What's your favorite Under the Radar show?
My under the radar favorites. Well, to be honest, a lot of the shit that I watched that was under the radar was long enough ago that I don't remember watching it. If I saw the title on a list somewhere, which I don't have, I might remember. But I did manage to come up with a few titles that I think deserve mention. The first one is, and we actually talked about this a little bit the last week, is Spirit of Wonder. And that's kind of, that was actually 2 releases in the States. One was by Animego, and it was the Miss China's Ring story, which was also released in manga form, I believe.
Yes,
I don't remember
actually
by
have
who.
manga. I think it was Dark Horse. I have, I believe, all
Sounds
of that.
right, yeah.
And I think I have the OVA on VHS, but I forget if I ever watched it.
Anyway, the Spirit of Wonder stories in general are kind of like, I'm not sure what the correct term is, but it's kind of like weird science. It's based in real science, but it's old science, back before certain things were proved wrong, like the whole Vannevar Bush ether theory. Ether was pretty much debunked, but this one of the stories in the released by this one was Bandai is all about that. They build this spaceship that runs on ether and go to Mars. So that's kind of the character of the stories, but generally the characters themselves are, it's kind of a down home feel. Like nothing super interesting happens, but they're just, good people to the core, and it's nice to watch them doing their thing, I guess. Like in the Miss China's Ring, there's this crazy doctor that perpetually owes rent to the object of the story, Miss China. And she runs a Chinese restaurant downstairs and is sort of like, really good looking, and she gets her ass grabbed a lot, and she beats people up because she knows kung fu.
She gets groped by Hayao Miyazaki.
Really?
Yeah, Mike pointed that out earlier, that Breckenridge looks like Miyazaki a little.
So that's what Spirited Away was about.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like the girls in his stories kept getting younger, didn't they? Anyway, yeah, that's actually all I was going to say about that. Other than the things that happen in those stories are definitely tall tales. They're sort of like, they use science as their inspiration, but they're not real science. It's fun. Anyway, the next thing I was going to mention is sort of an action show. Well, it's pretty much is an action show. I think a lot of people managed to see the Mezzo Forte movie, which is like, balls to the wall action and a little bit of strange nudity, and I guess if I remember right, there was even a rape scene. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember at least one of his works was edited, wasn't it?
Kite was edited. It had 4 releases, I think. Oh, sorry, 3. It had Kite, which had all the sex content removed. Kite Director's Cut, which had some of it. Then it finally released a fully uncut version in the early to mid 2000s. If I remember correctly, they had to keep it as an 18 plus. Initially, it's now available pretty widely because.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty graphic. Anyway, what I was going to mention was not Mezzo Forte the movie, but the Mezzo DSA TV series, which is still like balls to the wall action most of the time, but slightly slower paced because it's TV and they've got to get character development in so that people want to keep watching it. But the main character is still really funny and like. All kinds of crazy stuff is happening, so it's fun to watch. What else? I'll just mention a third thing since I'm sort of running along. I'm actually not sure how much attention this got, but my perception at the time was that almost nobody watched this. I'm talking about the Now and Then, Here and There TV series.
Oh yeah, that was a brilliant show. So dark, but really good.
It made you hate yourself at the end, but it was so fantastic.
Child Soldiers, the anime.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. It's like it's the experience of living under a warlord, I guess. One who's power hungry and intent on conquering neighboring areas.
Yeah, and King Hamdo was more than a little bit mentally ill in the way they portrayed him too.
Oh god, yeah. He was a psychopath.
Yeah, he was sort of a Hitler figure, right? But
yeah, very much.
But one of the funny things was that his hometown, if you'll call it that, his abode is called Hellywood.
Yeah, that was kind of amazing.
It's like, I wonder if that's a reference to something, perhaps.
That's right. Very on the nose, and it was like a flying death fortress.
Yeah, I thought it was flying, but I wasn't completely certain from my memory.
Yeah, I remember. I guess it might not have actually taken flight until they got water back on there. I remember.
That's right. It's like instead of consuming all of the world's oil, they're consuming all the world's water to power this death machine.
Yeah.
Not much better.
Exactly. There's a lot of imagery in that reminded me of sort of more classical anime that you would see back in the 70s and 80s in a lot of respects, too.
Yeah. So my shitty memory notwithstanding, I remember that show affecting me quite a lot. It's just a lot of heartbreaking moments and very visceral.
Yeah, that one goes right for the gut.
I think I'll stop there. I mean, I have a lot of stuff like. I was thinking one of my thoughts was Princess Nine. I think the only reason that got any attention at all is because when ADV originally put it out, it was really, really cheap.
Well, it also got a lot of attention.
It's like $15 per disc for 5 episodes each.
It also got a lot of attention because Chris Beveridge and Anime on DVD really pushed it on their site too, because he loved the show. He adored it.
Yeah, I know Chris Beveridge liked it. I wasn't sure how many people have actually seen it, so I wasn't sure whether to mention that. And my other thought was Skycrawlers by Oshii. I think that one didn't get much attention from anybody that I can think of, except for hardcore Oshii fans.
Which is a shame. It really was a fantastic film.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's probably the best low budget Japanese CG film I've seen. I guess it's mixed CG traditional, but there's quite a lot of CG in it.
There really is. Oh yeah, Princess Nine is also getting a reissue very soon from I think it's under Tercy's Lucky Penny label. So anyone that wants to check it out, that is going to go looking for it, wait for that to hit. do a good job with releases in general. I'm not advertising. I'm just saying it because I like the show, and from the releases I've seen, I've been kind of pleased with the overall presentation.
Score.
Yeah, I guess I should mention what it's about really briefly.
You really should.
It's a baseball anime, and essentially this headmaster of a girls' school puts together a baseball team and challenges boys, and they win a lot.
Not going to spoil the ending, but it is a traditional sports anime, so draw your conclusions there.
You got the
Who's the last
touch.
game?
Alright, so I guess I'll jump into mine. My big pick for Under the Radar hit is a show called Seraphim Call, which was produced by, I think, Sunrise, if I'm correct.
I believe that's true, yes. We
But
can check real quick.
yeah, I'm doing a quick, Sunrise, from 1999. It's a series of 12 individual stories, kind of like vignettes that focus on a specific character. But the beauty of it is that until the very last episodes, none of the characters have any relation, and each episode is filmed in a different style. So it is basically the experimental film of a lot of anime titles. Like one episode, it's a completely fixed perspective, one where it shows the perspective like a stuffed animal through the course of a day, just watching its owner. It sounds kind of cheesy, but it gets very dark very fast. Another one, it's filmed kind of like this over-the-top bombastic, like almost like a Thunderbirds type show, so you get those fast camera angles, stuff like that. Then there's one where it's actually filmed from two perspectives, same basic story, but given two distinct perspectives and looks on how it runs. It's a little bit on the unusual side, a little bit on the artsy-fartsy side, but I really enjoyed every minute of it. Otherwise, for a runner-up, I'd probably say Ayakashi Samurai Horror Tales, which was basically an adaptation of a number of traditional Japanese folk tales. While it is called samurai horror, there is, I think, like, it's not hardcore horror, it's more like supernatural, because one of the episodes is just a straight-up romance story.
Was that an ADV?
Yes, it was. It was one of those...
That explains the samurai in the title when it completely doesn't belong.
And the horror in the title.
Samurai X.
And my third, this is one that people will probably kind of look at me funny for, but Argento Soma, because it's a title that's kind of Eva-ish. It's during that point where everyone had to put out an Eva clone, but what they did was
Eva clone it is.
An Eva clone it is, basically, yeah. But it's handled well. It's given an interesting, unique spin. We all know the basic story of that type of stuff. Basically, giant aliens come to Earth. Somehow, a mentally damaged person has to save the world.
I think the what interested me about that show was that I was simultaneously pleased and a little bit disappointed when the big reveal comes at the end as to what all of those robots came down to do. Which I appreciate the show just for that. Definitely gives you mixed feelings.
They were there to party.
Exactly. And on the flip side, what show have you seen that no one's ever seen that people should just stay the hell away from?
I already said my one.
Say it again.
Well,
Sam.
All right. Dorian went already with Hero Tales, aka Master Asia Fights in Horrible Kung Fu. How about you, Benji?
I wish I could say Iki Tosen, but for some reason that one has a big fan base, and it's still one of the worst things I have ever seen.
You can still tell them to stay away. Even though
Yes.
they might punch you.
I mean, in the first, 3 episodes, they feel the need to give you an extreme close-up panty shot as a girl pisses herself while she's being essentially body slammed, and it's sexualized when it's this horrific misogynistic violence. It's just, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Oh, man.
I mean, I've never actually sat down and seen it because I saw your review and I ran like hell.
Yeah, it's a special kind of completely terrible in every way. And then, of course, there was, I guess, Le Portrait de Petite Cosette. I couldn't even finish that. It was so terrible.
That was basically Gothic Bondage, the anime, wasn't it?
But it's a
much.
French title. How can you not like it?
Yes, and they would it had like a Yuki Kajiura score, but it really did nothing to help it. It would focus on really long, boring, tiring monologues while they would gradually show a character have their intestines pulled out or something like that in a weird stylized form, and it's just disgusting and terrible in every way. There's nothing compelling about it. You don't care about what happens, and the story is incoherent. It's just trash.
It's funny you mentioned Kajiura. As good as her stuff is, I struggle to think of a single anime that her soundtracks have been in that was good.
Yeah, and Dot Hack was alright overall, but even then, that was kind of a mixed bag at best.
What about Eat Man?
She did some of Eat Man stuff. Eat Man was good, but she wasn't the only composer who worked on that either.
True enough.
It was a good variety of people who worked on that. But yeah, Eat Man is a absolute classic that next to nobody has seen, and sadly, obviously the original OVAs have been lost to time in the West now since they lost the printers and couldn't do a DVD release of that.
Same thing with Eat Man 98, though. That was a show that just generally got ignored by everybody.
Exactly. Everybody I guess they probably look at the concept, think weird, and just move on. And I mean, the whole thing itself is just basically a series of very vaguely connected short stories that really only make sense when you get to the very end of the manga and you get sort of the big reveals about who the main character is and what he's been doing all along. But there's sort of almost like a sort of almost Buddhist epic sort of element to it, though, too, given that it's really just more about the journeys he's taking in these little stories that play out across the different worlds that he roams over the course of the story.
Sounds like Kino no Tabi totally ripped off Eat Man.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it was under the radar enough that you could easily get away with it, and I mean, just about anybody would probably watch a show that doesn't feature a guy eating inanimate objects for fun. Still features one of the coolest moves I've ever seen in either anime or manga, though, where he basically spends either an entire episode or an entire chapter, I might have been in the manga, actually, and early on, where he basically just drinks entire barrels of oil, and then at one point rematerializes it in his hand while holding a match and just creates a flamethrower with his fingertips.
Okay, that sounds pretty badass.
It is pretty badass.
Yeah, I guess you don't see that in Kino's journey.
Yeah.
Just a talking motorcycle.
That's right, which obviously was stolen from Heat Vision and Jack, which sadly never went anywhere as a show, and nobody's heard of it because only the pilot exists, even though it stars Jack Black and Owen Wilson as the talking motorcycle.
That is true.
Yes, the world needs more references to Heat Vision and Jack because nobody watched it.
Yes, it does.
Shit, what did I want to say? Oh, Kajiura. I did want to mention that the scores she did for Xenosaga were fantastic, and at least one of those games was good. So
Yeah.
It's a shame you didn't hear enough of her in the first one. No, you didn't hear much of anything in the first one.
Yeah,
she didn't score the first one, so that explains that.
I never finished the first one or got the others, though if they ever ported them to the 3DS or something, I'd probably buy them there.
They got Mitsuda to score the first one, and it was good, but the game wasn't.
Never-ending cutscenes.
Wasn't that the one where halfway through a 3-hour cutscene it gave you a save screen?
3-hour cuts.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
That was the game of the mega cutscenes. That's for sure.
Kojima and pretty much all of Sony Computer Entertainment would be very proud, clearly.
So you paid $50 to watch
Right.
a movie or a television show.
At the time, it was considered brilliant.
You know, if it was good plot, good story, then I would have been okay with that. You know, I think back to the second disc of Xenogears, which is, in my mind, the best writing of the whole game, and you know, it doesn't. The second disc compared to the first doesn't last very long gameplay wise, and it's a lot of dialogue, but it's really terrific, very good, very well written.
Yeah, I never made it to the second disc. I got to the very end of the first, and then got stuck in a series of fights with the gears where I was basically stuck running out of gas with no way to retreat and upgrade or replenish. So.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that sounds like a similar experience that I had.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like replaying to that point again after that because it had taken so long just to get there.
Definitely understandable. So,
Indeed. Well,
Yeah.
I'll be getting my fix whenever X comes out this year anyway, so...
Yeah, if you think of the Xeno series, well, all of them, not, regardless of who owned the property at any given time. Not the best record, but story-wise, it's still intriguing.
Yeah,
every time one
intriguing
comes
and
out.
fun. And hey, now we have Nopon, and that's the most important thing.
Yes, we have Ricky.
That's right. Nopon, very cool.
Anyway, getting back on topic,
Hero Pong can suck it.
Oh,
for a little puffy creature, he was a beast.
Yep.
So, how about you, Matt? What's your I should leave this under a bridge show?
Well, God, there's so many of those too, but I have only two that I'll bother to mention. One is I sort of hesitate to mention this one because it's a B Train show, and everybody knows my opinion of B Train in general, and all of the shows of theirs that I've watched specifically. They're
They
just
have
not
an
very
appropriate
good.
name, though. I mean, the company's advertising itself as a train made out of bees. I mean, really, they're telling you to stay away.
That's true.
that was the first
If you-
sign.
If you expect honey, you will come away with stings.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the show I was going to mention was... Okay, before I do, I should mention that there is one B-Train show I like. And the only reason I like it probably is because it's unabashedly bad. Like, it doesn't try to pretend it's good. And that is Murder Princess.
I remember that.
And it's
Oh,
just as cheesy as it sounds, and I really enjoyed it.
They're just like grabbing random words at this point and slapping them together for titles.
Wait, what can work? People like princesses, and they want blood. Murder princess.
That's right. Is she the princess of murder?
Or the princess to murder.
That's right.
Maybe it's both.
Damn it, Mike. Try to stop giving away the plot.
Just rename the podcast Spoilers. Spoilers with a question mark at the end.
Spoiler talk.
All right, so I was going to mention, well, probably much to you guys' surprise, I was not going to mention the Girls with Guns shows, even though they're all pretty terrible, except possibly for the second one. Madlax was half terrible, but half good, I would say.
Mm.
And the terrible half is all about the main character that is like a little girl. And the good half is all related to the other character who's like this assassin who likes to dress up scantily.
Oh, I remember.
Anyway.
that.
The show I was going to mention is called Avenger. And in a way, it's like the gun shows in the sense that there's like a 30-something woman who's like, I don't know, pissed off about something. And basically a little girl, like a preteen. And the little girl is always the one that's like, you know, this mystic intrigue about her. And it kind of plays out like the guns shows, except it's just awful.
The final
The-
twist is that she's just a normal little girl.
The older woman is like, you know, out for revenge, hence the title, I guess. And that's pretty much that pretty much sums it all up. And the setting is weird. It's like on Mars, and there's like these dome cities, and they're all fighting each other over water or some shit. It's like, don't fucking move to Mars in the first place. But anyway,
Everybody's thirsty there.
yeah. So it's like a tournament show. This older woman goes through and like kicks ass and moves on to the next city, and suddenly there's this big reveal that nobody cares about because, you know, whatever. It doesn't even matter to know the truth in this show. But that's actually okay. So that's the one I hesitated to bring up because almost everything from B-Train is just bad. But some of it is popular and not under the radar, and this one was.
All right.
The one I was going to mention is, and I even hesitated to mention this one too because I've mentioned it before actually. Ichi the Killer, Episode 0. Picture a show where this like father figure orders hits, and the would-be assassin happily goes about it because he gets off on it, and the episode goes to great length to show us how much he gets off on killing people.
Well,
otherwise known as murder jizz.
Actually, if you've ever seen the original Ichi the Killer, they go out of their way to show it in that as well.
Yeah, it's just garbage in
Thanks
my
a lot,
mind.
Mike.
Murder boners. Fresh.
It's one of the few things that I've watched that I feel not necessarily dumber, but I feel worse for having watched it. Like, you know, it's the that which cannot be unseen effect.
Absolutely. I mean, I tried watching this before.
And
I
that
sent
was
it.
CPM, by the way. It's probably what killed them. If they had only not put that show out, they would have been fine.
The character came out of the screen and killed their company. And then he jerked off on the corpse. Poor CPM. It's only a matter of time till somebody makes a Ring anime too, and you know it.
Oh no! Don't. No.
And there will be god-awful Moe Sadako fan art too. And probably a portrayal like that in the show.
There already is god-awful Moe Sadako fan art. What are you talking about?
That's true, and there had to be. Man, oh man. I was just thinking of another one that I hated too, that I just tore apart for Anime Dream back in the day too, was that one about the girl in the tank, the girl with the blue eye, which was basically just Mary Sue in a tank, and it's just incredibly bad. Starts out with a potentially intriguing French premise, but then it just goes downhill as it goes because the writing gets more and more implausible and keeps reinforcing in every episode how perfect the main character is, until by the end of the show you're just furious with it and that you've wasted your time watching this. There's no real conflict. It's just a girl jumping around killing giant bugs with her sword while hanging out with her sort of paternal figure talking tank, and then getting into sort of vague love interest type scenarios with a story that really doesn't matter because she's the chosen one and everything about her is perfect, and she totally knows always when the exact moment is to drop her sword and hug it out with the bad guys. It's so terrible.
It really sounds it.
Yeah. Oh man. I can recommend it to no one.
That reminds me of Origin, Spirits of the Past. Stupid eco movie. I think that was Gonzo.
I think it was. Let me check.
Funimation put that out a while back, and they were like really, really pimping it hard.
I
And
think I remember. Watch this.
it's almost like egg on their face that they were because it's so terrible.
Global warming the anime.
It was Gonzo, yes.
Global Green Legend ran away.
Yeah, so Origin was supposed to be like this epic fight between sentient plants that came from the moon and humans who haven't given up against the plants yet and are like bombing them to hell.
Wow.
But they're running out of bombs.
That's just terrible. It makes me think a little bit of that M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Happening, where everybody was just killing themselves, but it all turned out to be plant gas that was making them do it. And the lesson was something like, be good to the earth, kids.
What a twist!
What a twist! Oh, come on, get to my thing.
Yeah, that was pretty much it right there. I think the only environmental story I've seen done in anything recently that I actually liked was in the Kid Icarus 3DS game, where they have the goddess of nature just decide to wipe out all of humanity midway through the game, and her whole campaign only really stops when Hades shows up, so they have to focus on the bigger bad. And even at the very end of the game, some of the very last lines of the dialogue are her reminding you that their war with nature isn't over yet, and she's still going to destroy humanity, and nobody has learned anything, and then the credits roll.
Sequel.
That's right. Sakurai is next game.
Let's see.
No, what's really bad? I just thought of one that maybe no one has seen that I actually liked.
All right, what's that?
Have you got? It's a show called Mononoke.
I have not seen the series. I've heard of it, but I never got a chance to watch it.
I think
Oh,
I've only heard the name.
it's a really good show. It's actually a spinoff of the thing you just mentioned about these. I didn't know it was a spinoff of the Samurai Horror Tales thing.
Hmm.
But it's technically a spinoff. It follows a guy, a medicine healer or priest, and he goes around exorcising these demons called Mononoke.
Hmm.
And it's about 12 episodes, and the visual style it's old Japanese art style,
Oh, like ukiyo-e maybe, like woodblock prints.
kind of sort of like that.
Hmm.
And the whole show is done like that, and it's beautifully animated. It's a beautiful looking show. I mean, just watch it just for the visual aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a pretty gutsy approach for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought about it because it's like, why is this? Because I never technically finished it. I'm halfway through it, but it's one of those shows like anytime I show it to an American friend of mine or an American person, they just go like, "Yeah, I'm not watching this," because of the style itself.
Yeah, sounds like they're missing out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And since we're still discussing off the radar shows too, I feel like the podcast still can't be complete without Cat Soup. Naturally, Cat Soup has to go.
Cat Soup, the completely off the wall series, short film about the cat that goes through the land of the dead to get his sister's soul back or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. It's just one big acid trip, and you have sort of the bondage Mickey Mouse guy with the giant scissors and all of that.
I remember that.
Demon-looking cat.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, and of course, for more off the radar stuff, still got to at least mention in passing Crest of the Stars and Banner of the Stars, because those are amazing shows that next to nobody watched, and more people should.
Which is a shame considering that they actually got runs on Tech TV.
Yeah, no kidding. Though I've seen some clips of the dub recently, and I can kind of see why that part didn't take off, because the dub was really, not that great. It's like there's no inflection half the time. And for more off the radar, Gokudo is definitely a fantasy show that just about anybody who likes fantasy comedies like The Slayers should definitely see. I've only seen about half of it, unfortunately, but Media Blasters released it probably over a decade ago, as I recall. But
Yeah.
the main character is basically like a spoof of RPG heroes and a complete asshole who, very early on, for example, gets this magical flaming sword that's sort of enchanted so he can summon it from any location, anytime. So the first thing he does is he goes to the shop, sells it, gets a bunch of money, summons it back to himself again after that, and then does that at every shop he possibly can. And then he ends up picking up
That's
a genie
brilliant.
companion who hangs out with him for a lot of the show. But most of the time, all the wishes he wants to make with the genie are really horrible and asshole-ish ones, too. So he's basically the anti-hero who only cares about getting rich and powerful. And then when he actually achieves that, he gets bored, so he decides to just walk off, wish all of that away, so he can go screw things up some more elsewhere.
Let's see. I actually have an under the radar show that people should run if they ever see. I mean, you know me. I kind of make a hobby of collecting these for some reason. I don't know why I'm just a twisted individual, but anyway.
Gotta have something for Bad Anime Night.
Yeah, I have over 100 tales for Bad Anime and I know.
100.
This show is called Cure Meki Project. Basically, it's a giant robo show that tries to mix fan service and moe. Let me read you the box description now. On the Mediterranean Sea, there lies the beautiful kingdom of Genes, or Genis. It is ruled by 3 lovely, mostly innocent princesses and the power of technology. The surrounding kingdoms all fall one by one to a mysterious giant robot. Worse yet, the robot is under the control of several decidedly unattractive old guys. When they set their sights on Genis, the fate of the world rests on the maid outfit-clad shoulders of Kana, the second princess. Born with a special knack for robot technology, Kana and her android companion Wrinkle are the last line of defense for Genis. Their last line of defense is a giant robot dressed in maid gear. It's horrible. It's a show that it's ugly, it's laden with anguish, and honestly, I couldn't watch more than 10 minutes without turning it off.
Wow. It makes me think a little bit of Neo Ranga right from the beginning there, too. Because, I mean, I remember trying to watch that and liking the basic character designs, but the show itself was basically unwatchable garbage.
Which is a shame. It was an interesting concept.
Yeah, I guess it was just like the priestess girls had a giant god that they would summon to battle for them. And another off-the-radar one that I actually liked that I still need to get around to reviewing since it was sort of a relic from the end of the anime dream days was, of course, Shingu, Secret of the Stellar Wars, which was sort of like Evangelion if there's no angst and everybody's just kind of really relaxed, laid back, and nice. There's a sort of set around this very small town in Japan that happens to be this headquarters for the Galactic Federation, filled with aliens disguised as human beings. And even when that big revelation starts to come out to the people of the town, nobody really cares. Everybody's just like, all right, that's cool. And then even then, you'll get alien threats that come to the Earth. But even then, when they show up, the tension that's brought on by that is relatively limited at best, and all of the real threats are usually eliminated within the episode with relative ease. And even when the entire city gets shut down by, say, a giant angel-style monster like in Evangelion, everybody just sort of goes into their shelters and figures, let's wait for this to blow over.
That is the most...
So Evangelion is a whole bunch of people on, crack or meth, and this show is a whole bunch of people on pot instead.
Exactly.
It's an advertisement.
It's an advertisement for
has a
pot.
good time. And there's like a weird sort of almost.
This is your brain on pot.
Undertone to it, because I mean, the main character is at least one of the main characters is this sort of kid who seems to be from outer space, but nobody really knows exactly where he's from or what his origins are. But he's supposed to be sort of.
Well,
like
he doesn't
Buddhist.
either. I mean, come on.
Exactly. But he's just basically sort of supposed to be this Buddhist hero according to the liner notes that came with this release from The Right Stuff. And he's basically there to make the world a better place, to be chilled out, tell everybody else to chill out, and then when things go wrong, he basically saves the day through one manner or another. And I mean, he and his other family members have this thing where they will just run around really fast, jump up literally into orbit, just causing the ground to explode beneath their feet as they leap up from the planet, and they'll hang out just floating in orbit around the planet, chatting casually, even though there's no oxygen for which their dialogue could carry through in the first place.
Oh, it's like the whole comms with mechas thing.
Exactly.
Like, is everybody really patched in with each other so that they can insult the other one?
I think they are. I think that's what that's the whole point of mecha comms.
Just gotta trash talk while hitting each other with their robot fists.
Actually, my favorite instance of that was from this another under the radar show that some people liked. I absolutely hated, called Gene Shaft.
I remember that.
In one of the very last episodes, they
You're
actually.
such a liar. Nobody liked that show.
Yeah, Chris Beveridge liked it. That was it.
Out, if nobody else
Yeah,
does it, it has to be pointed out that the title could also be used as a euphemism for a dick. It's like, I'm gonna put a gene shaft in her.
I think that's why Chris Beveridge liked it.
Probably. Just the really obvious dick joke while he was upset by Green because that was too blatant.
But no, this guy that came to make Earth a better place, at least he wasn't from the future.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like, ever see The Girl Who Left Through Time? You can't handle the future!
That's right. I always looked at The Girl Who Left Through Time as basically being like John Hughes with time travel, basically.
Pretty much.
She's like, I have to admit that I like him, but I don't want to. Jumps through time again. It's like teen time traveler problems.
It's like, thanks, bitch. You used up all of my fuel, or something.
Mm. But if I remember correctly, Gene Shaft had this one scene in one of the later episodes where it's this big, huge climactic fight. Well, it should be, but it's so low budget that it just looks terrible. And halfway through, it starts cutting through these communications between the two. And it literally is this. It's like, you don't know what you're doing. Shut up! You don't understand me! You'll never understand me! And it just cuts out. It was just...
Oh, man. It's like Stardust Memory. Remember that show?
Yep. No, it was...
It's like the experienced pilot is like just fucking... I don't remember the details. He's just, getting on... just admonishing this this rookie pilot who really literally just got into a mobile suit for the first time, and he's like blah 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 blah, and the young guy's like, yes sir. and he's he's like, "I'm the enemy, you idiot." I don't know why I like that show. I really don't. It's not good. But I did.
There's no reason. You know, man, I'm surprised you didn't pick up on Melody of Oblivion.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't want to believe that show is under the radar.
Dude, you're one of like 4 people I know that know of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the entire first half of Gurren Lagann is basically Melody of Oblivion all over again.
Can't believe it. Habib it.
I'm sure I'll catch flack for that. That's right. Gurren Lagann fucking copies another show. What are you going to do about
every
it?
Other Evangelion
It's okay.
show. Every Gainax show in the first place is kind of a knockoff of what they did previously too. I mean,
Yeah, it's
just
kind of
going
their
back
thing.
and watching Gunbuster back in high school, I marveled at just how much of Evangelion was basically like a much angstier, more screwed up version of Gunbuster, while Gunbuster's big fights felt a hell of a lot more epic, and the show had a lot more heart too.
Yeah, I enjoyed Gunbuster.
I haven't gotten around to ever seeing the sort of sequel that they made, Die Buster, but I liked the original Gunbuster quite a bit.
I stayed away from D-Buster or Die-Buster, whatever it's called, because of the price. No other reason, really.
Yeah, that was an Onami's release, wasn't it?
Could be.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think it was. It was one of those quote unquote prestige titles from Bandai Visual, like Wings of Onamis and
Yeah.
a couple others that were just out of the price range of normal people.
Yeah, it'd be nice to
Onamis
see
is
that
definitely
when.
worth seeing, but I had it on DVD from a while back, so I saw no reason to get it on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
Right.
I have the VHS, but need to upgrade to the DVD. But I remember the one time I watched that it was so long I had to break it up into multiple viewing sessions just to finish it.
See, I actually
Even that movie, as much as everybody praises it, I think serious critics also acknowledge that there were certain things that were done in that movie that were, the result of inexperienced directorship.
absolutely.
All I can say is attempted rape scene.
Yeah,
Never really
that's
mentioned
pretty
again
much
either.
what I was getting at.
Yeah, and they never mention it again. It never comes up, and it's just like, well, now you kind of hate the main character for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on.
You don't just move on, Mike. It's a
I know.
dramatic experience.
It is.
like to move it, move it.
Oh, can you
A
hear
lot of these shows with dramatic experiences for all.
outside my apartment?
Yes, they were.
This is actually just like a therapy group this week.
That's the second title right there.
Moving along. Earlier this week, ANN reported that Rumiko Takahashi produced a new entry of the Rumic Theater in a one-shot. The title, which runs in the March 5th issue, will be titled Majo to Dinner, or Witch and Dinner, and it follows a man whose wife passed away. Even he has success, he has no dreams. He's several years away from mandatory retirement, and when an exceedingly beautiful and capable female president of the company invites him to dinner. Is this his lucky break or potential trouble? Or in this potential trouble, is there a lucky break? Intrigue. What are your thoughts?
Dramatic dinner. Or in the words of the King of Hyrule, I wonder what's for dinner.
I can't wait to bump to Domino's.
Or dinner.
That's right.
We need that unnatural laugh, too.
This dinner is what all true warriors strive for.
There we go.
He deserves his own spin-off game.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I know Rumic Theater has gotten a lot of good attention, but I don't know. I feel like something like this gets no attention in the West, except for the fact that Viz has a love affair with Takahashi.
I don't think they've ever... Did they ever start doing Urusei Yatsuda translations again, or did they just...
No,
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. That was the one series that I ever really got around to catching up with way back in the 90s, and I was very sad when they stopped releasing that. Otherwise, I had all of her shorts, and I think I have most of, if not all of, the Mermaid Saga too, and I feel like a lot of that stuff was definitely stronger overall than her longer running series, where you have sort of Ranma and Inuyasha and all these others sort of start running into each other, and the lines get blurred, and eventually you realize, oh right, she's done everything before. And even just getting ahead in the Urusei Yatsura anime back in the day, I began to realize that most of the cast of Ranma and Inuyasha were basically just rewrites of her characters from Urusei Yatsura too, and her previous works.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I always admired about Rumiko Takahashi is, I mean, she's kind of, I think she's one of the first mangaka that popularized all of these, like, yokai type things, and, you know, the weird Japanese fairy tales. And
yeah, that's a lot of fun.
If you look at artists like Clamp, it takes it takes 4 of them to do what Takahashi does.
Big sparkly eyes all over everything.
And little angels flying around their heads.
That's right. Yeah, and of course now Japan has the Yokai Watch anime running now too, which is apparently lifting the hell out of the 3DS game. So that may actually come west sometime this year too, from what's been said. But that looks potentially fun anyway, just for the sake of exploring, I guess, more yokai folklore within sort of this accessible sort of Pokemon-style framework that they created for that. Yeah, that's some charming stuff. And I only saw a few of the old Takahashi sort of adaptations of her older work too. Like I have a Anime Go tape of Fire Tripper from back in the day, which involves sort of like time travel back to one samurai period or another, and that was pretty interesting for what it was too. Fairly violent, but I believe a lot of those were only about half an hour or two. And another one, I guess, Marish the Chojo, was pretty amusing, largely because it dealt with the main character having to wear all of these constraints. Otherwise, she was naturally so strong, she would just break everything around her in her spaceship, and inevitably that's what happens, just for the physical comedy of it. So she's there trying to operate her computer or walk around, and she's just punching holes in the floor and smashing her machines. And it's something that sort of worked as a basic visual comedy.
It's like the real story of Superman.
Exactly. It's like, hey Lois, that was a good time, right? Lois? No!
That was one of the Mallrats jokes. He would gut her like a fish.
Pretty much. It's like fucking a superpowered dolphin. It's just a bad idea. But yeah, I feel like that's a big thing that was sort of charming too about those old Rumic World and Rumic Theater works of manga Rumiko Takahashi did, was that she was able to sort of take just a very simple, basic experimental concept, let it play out in short form, and then complete it without really any worries about having to go any further than she needs to with that.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think there's a certain expectation around Takahashi that she's going to, you know, that everything she makes is going to be this, you know, multi-platinum, you know, 7 to 10 years running mega hit. So it's almost like she did this other stuff to
kind of offset that,
to catch a break, almost.
Yeah, I would think you would need a palate cleanser after a certain point.
You can only do Inuyasha for so long.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like, oh hey, they're still collecting Shikon shards. Good thing all of this is building up to basically nothing. It's a monster of the week.
Actually,
wait, did we beat the villain yet? No.
That's right.
We have to have a whole different series to beat the villain.
And of course, I feel like just because it bears mentioning too, sadly, the voice actor who played Happosai passed away not that long ago too.
Oh.
yeah, that was a very sad day for anime fans.
Yeah, Happosai is one of those legendary characters who, long after all the rest of anime is burnt out and forgotten, and there's nothing but ruins of human civilization left, one of the few things that will remain is an image of Happosai somewhere out there, with a little sack full of panties on his back.
Yes, that was Ichiro Nagai, who also did another prominent Takahashi character. He did Sakurambo, or Cherry from Urusei Yatsura.
Ah, yes, also a great character, and they were very sort of similar in their terms of physical appearance. And of course, I guess their successor was the little flea Myoga, if I remember right, in Inuyasha.
Yeah.
There was always a character like that. And of course, even Sakurambo had his own sort of perverted streak, even though he was mostly there just to mock everybody else and their suffering.
Pretty much. He was there either being perverted or he was just humiliating everybody.
Exactly. I always felt like that his niece, the nurse that everybody wanted to sleep with, was almost felt like a prototype or perhaps an inspiration for the nurse character Itoko in School Rumble too, because their character archetypes are almost identical in many respects.
That is true.
I think a lot of the characters in School Rumble are definitely homages, but although subtle, like the art teacher and how she has a ribbon on her ankle, like Miyu did.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense too, and he's obviously a big fan of a lot of different works. It'd be nice to see more of Gene Kobayashi's work actually make it out of Japan one of these days. But I liked how there was just this sort of quietness to all the characters too. So they weren't always as loud or abrasive as a lot of the comedy characters in Takahashi's works can be, and they usually had a little bit more depth than just being one-note joke characters. So they would have, interesting, complex relationships between characters like Hanai and Mikoto, for example, whereas other times you'll have entire episodes or chapters of the manga where he'll just be flying by on a kite in the background, stuck in there, or obsessing over Yakumo and basically stalking her, much in the vein of a Takahashi character.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of because Urusei Yatsura is Takahashi's defining work that almost every character she's written since then is Urusei in a way.
Exactly, they're all very much in that vein. And you always have supporting characters who work kind of like the Stormtroopers, who were actually very minor characters in the manga, but became breakout stars in the anime as well, which was always pretty amusing. But she never quite had a character on the level of sheer open perversion as Ataru Moroboshi, though. He's sort of a legend in his own right, even today.
Yeah, but the thing with Ataru was they really couldn't get away with it in this day and age. I mean, some of the stuff he did was pretty raunchy.
Yeah, no kidding. He was a horrible human being in a pretty amazing way. And even his parents basically wished they had him aborted in every other scene.
I was going to say that in a horrible way. He's so bad his parents wanted to abort him, like you were saying. This is a person who does everything in the name of getting some poontang, but at the same time, once he gets it, he says, no, I want the other one.
Exactly.
Well, and the parents are horrible people too, right? That's the whole joke.
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, everybody was terrible in one way or another in that. And you even had sort of, Onsen Marcus
It's
be
like
sort of their...
Kansai, the anime.
Exactly. He was sort of their big archetype for the badass teachers. And then, of course, for characters like Genma's panda form, you had that sort of preceded by the big Kotatsu Neko cat ghost that would just kind of hang out under Kotatsus and just be there. And then, of course, anytime they would bring in the mythological characters like Kintaro, you just had this little kid who would show up riding a bear with an axe and would constantly threaten to cut everybody's heads off. So he was like Axe Cop before there was Axe Cop, practically.
I will chop your head off!
It's birthday flavored. Your favorite.
But, getting back to the Rumic World stuff, fans of that low-key Takahashi stuff, I do recommend you check out, this was one of those late-era Geneon shows that just kind of got marched out to die back when the company was, kerploding.
Yeah, I've wanted to see that later adaptation. I'd always heard that was good.
Yeah, it was a show called Rumiko Takahashi Anthology. It basically adapts 12 different Rumic stories together in one series. They actually did a surprisingly good job with it. They kept that general flavor that made the original stories work so well. But
I would imagine at least some of them would have to be re-adaptations of ones that were done back in the 80s too, given that not Funimation, but Animego released a number of those sort of one-shots and half-hour VHS tapes way back in the day.
Actually, I don't think there were many, because One Pound Gospel never got redone.
Yeah, that's true. I actually have the OVA of that too around somewhere on VHS.
And what was the other one that Animego did? What was that other big one?
I don't know if they did Mermaid Saga or not. I forget exactly when that was adapted.
That was a Geneon release too, as well. That's got the later adaptation, which...
Yeah, I haven't seen that either, though. I like the manga. That was surprisingly dark and worked quite well.
That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. That in the days just prior to the anime bust, a lot of really interesting stuff came out, and there wasn't much time to latch onto it and see it, and I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff as well as maybe you guys too.
Yeah, I look at some of my one-shot DVDs that I have for stuff like Doki Doki School Hours too, and I kind of immediately think of that too.
I really need to finish that. I've got the first 4 volumes. I actually did enjoy it. It was a good, goofy Azumanga clone in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's why I liked it. I only have the first disc, and I saw some of it fan subbed a very long time ago, and I've been wanting to see the rest since, just because it's lightweight and fun, and that's where it works.
Plus, it had an awesome ending theme.
Exactly. It was catchy, and it was just fun, and sometimes you need something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff that came out like right before the bubble burst. It was like the
Ikaije.
Ikaije actually was enjoyable. It was enjoyable.
That was a joke with the Ancast for a while. They had to mention Ikaije at every episode.
He's just basically the lighter from Mega Man 2. He shows up, spews flames everywhere, and then magically teleports somehow.
Pretty much. Yeah, but we got some really cool stuff in that point. Like, there was this one show that was just completely off the wall, strange as a sin, called Dokoida, about this guy who ends up unwittingly becoming this, transforming like almost like a Super Sentai hero, except he's like incredibly goofy. His transformed form was like this really weird thing that wears a diaper, but we won't go there. Anyway, the whole concept is that somehow he ends up living in the same house as all the villains. So they're all sitting there, completely oblivious to who they are, and then going out every afternoon to fight each other. It sounds strange, but it works incredibly well.
Honestly, it sounds to me like something that Looney Tunes did. And I don't remember the details, but it was like, it was like a couple characters punching in, and they're like mortal enemies, and they, go at it against each other for the whole cartoon, and then at the end of it, they punch out. It's like, by George, that sort of thing.
I kind of remember there being something like that, maybe like a sheepdog and a coyote or a wolf or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Something
I don't remember what the animals were, but
yeah, that was a really old one. I think that was a Tex Avery cartoon.
it was so funny
Yeah, it
because
could
it's
have
just like, this is what they do for a living.
It's like, it's a living, popping right into Flintstones there. Then over in the Jetsons, the robots were all just like, I was made to do this shit.
So, yeah. Dokoida, check it out. It's strange, but somehow surprisingly funny.
Isn't it like Dokoida?
Dokoida, yeah.
With
Sounds
the
like something
entire
somebody
bang
would-
at the end.
With the entire bag, yeah.
It sounds like something someone would yell at a sumo match too, like, Doskoi! Doskoi! I feel like it's only a matter of time until we see a sumo Sentai show at this rate too.
Oh god.
It's kind of a wonder it hasn't been done yet. A superhero who wears a mask and fights people with his weight.
Well, we got Hentai Common, so we're getting closer.
There we go.
Dokoida in the Budokan.
Satsumaki Senpukyaku!
I relish the opportunity to talk like this in podcasts and show people how little about Japanese people I really know. Because, that's one of the things I like. I think a lot of people are irritated by the, by these, totally fake Japanese enthusiasts with air quotes. People that just watch anime and think they know something about Japanese people.
Weeaboos.
Weeaboos.
I'm happy to admit that I know nothing about Japanese people.
I minored in the language and studied both culture and history in college, so I know quite a bit, and I'm fully aware of how little anime
Shut up,
fans
no you
know
don't.
about them.
But yeah, man, don't be afraid to call a spade a spade. We're talking about friggin' weeaboos now.
Yeah. In fact, don't just call a spade. Hit him on the back of the head with a spade. Feels better.
I get the whole. When I first got into anime, I was learning a few things, and I thought, hey, it feels like I actually know something about these people. But then, then I learned better, I guess.
You watch Otaku no Video and quickly realize that anime fans are the people the rest of society wants nothing to do with.
Either that or even better, you watch Otaku.
Exactly that.
Even better, you watch Otaku Unite and you realize those are the people that are in your backyard.
Yeah. And these are the people who are basically causing Japan's huge population problems.
Yeah, I don't really believe that. I think, I don't know.
All right, moving along. A couple days ago, Bloodline creator Takuma Terashima closed his Twitter account because he was receiving untold levels of harassment from people. The staff wrote, "The other day, messages addressed to Takuma Terashima's Twitter account were found not only to be inappropriate but also dangerous. Although the staff would have had no problem solving this problem behind closed doors, but because any further attacks would cause problems for not only Terashima but also his fans and those who know him, we have decided to close the account completely." So, internet, wonderful people.
Great community, great environment.
Fuckwads.
We're just seeing who the true fans really are. And
Actually-
obviously you're not a true fan if you're not willing to send death threats to somebody.
If you're not angry enough.
And I was wrong. It's not the creator. It was a voice actor. I read incorrectly.
There we go then.
So he was also in the Automassa movie and fucking Tests. He was in actually a lot of stuff. From School Rumble to K-On!
It's pretty mainstream, but yeah, there you go. You get the outpouring of the worst kinds of fans imaginable.
Dear God, Beyblade.
It's the magic of social media and Web 2.0.
Yeah, it's the greater internet fuckwad theory.
Yeah. Given enough time, eventually, given the anonymity they need, and you will just get lynch mobs everywhere you go.
Yeah, but I think you've seen this not just here, but in other famous people. And like I know ESPN was just talking about the other day, where you had athletes get harassed about a game they played, or if they played badly, then the fans would just rag on them on their Twitter account. So, like Twitter, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, and any other social media thing makes it harder for you to hide. Whereas back in the day, if you didn't have all these profiles accounts, you could easily just ignore all the noise. But now you just can't.
Right, and I mean, no one's immune to it either. It's one of those things where if you post anything on social media, you become a target. Like, granted, there are some people that say some horrible things that deserve what they get.
Phil Fish.
like Phil Fish, yeah. Wasn't he the one that said, "Suck it, haters, I sold 1 million copies," when people were basically upset with the way he reacted to Fez and his delays.
Yeah. Then of course he refused to actually patch the game because it was too expensive, and he would have had to have spent just about all the money he made on that just to release a patch on Xbox Live Arcade. And then of course he also notoriously basically shit-talked just about everybody he could, including all Japanese game design, and went out of his way to troll continuously on Twitter, and then acted like he was a big victim when everybody just tore into him for being the kind of person he was out there. Oh man.
And then he had that little mini fight with that, what was it, a critic or something like that?
Oh, yeah, Manny.
Yeah.
He was a very combative individual.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's hard to hide. There is nowhere you can hide. Unless you move into the cabin and cut off all yourself to all electronic cell phones, tablets, everything.
Then go in the corner, cover yourself in a blanket, and go into ghost mode.
There you go. Ghost mode. Perfect item.
Gotta keep with the theme of the podcast.
By the way, the title of this episode is...
It seems like the harassment is the story, but what's the story behind the harassment? Did something happen?
Unfortunately, I have no real background on this.
Yeah, it's hard to really comment when
Yeah.
you don't know both sides. But I mean, obviously, harassment is never okay, but
Mm.
it's also largely uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, it's like the anonymous culture. You know, somebody gets pissed off at somebody, and they start finding information about them on the internet, and you know, a lot more than most people think that that is available about them, and they just get harassed by strangers nonstop. And that's not cool. But I mean, I just wonder how, you know, how they got that attention in the first place, and that seems to be the real story, other than the flurry of assholes harassing somebody.
Mm.
The harassment seems to be a constant, is what I'm trying to say. I'm more interested in what causes you to gain that unwanted attention.
True. I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure either. I mean, this guy's been in a lot of anime works. Like I said, like Idolmaster, like Log of Horizon, I believe it was. But I mean, he is unfortunately a fairly visible individual, which meant that the people that didn't like the works he was in are probably going to go out of their way to express their dislike of it, which I'm being very kind about that. They're going to go out there.
There's always detractors for anybody that's famous.
Mm.
I just want, and that's actually kind of what I'm wondering about. Is it a more typical story of somebody getting not getting the privacy he desires, given the fame that he has, or is it something deeper, like he actually pissed off the internet?
I'm not sure, but from the implications of things, he was receiving death threats, so...
Yeah.
I mean, Japanese fans can get crazy. Remember Kuroko's basketball? Where they had that one person that was like... They actually canceled events over because this guy was just plain bonkers.
Otherwise known as Scram Dunk.
Yep. Here we go. It was,
Space Jam, the anime. And you know that somebody has written fan fiction at some point crossing over Space Jam with an anime series.
Oh man.
And
I can only imagine.
Sounds glorious.
Here we go. Kuroko's basketball. There was a person that was actually sending around like chemical laced snacks.
Wow.
To people to basically poison fans and stuff.
Jesus. Poison pizza is finally a thing.
Yeah. Homer Simpson wouldn't have to make 2 trips.
That's right.
But yeah, someone put like agricultural chemicals into Kuroko's basketball themed snacks at a 7-Eleven store in Chiba. And these things started to escalate to the point where they had to cancel events, pull merchandise from stores because people wouldn't buy it. I mean, just for the show existing, mind you. Just for the manga and the show existing.
Yeah, some people, there's crazy, and then there's that.
Poison snacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody saw Phantom of the Opera too many times.
They probably sang Music of the Night while they were doing it, too. Accidentally poisoned themselves in the process. But thus, they've eliminated themselves as a suspect.
Yes.
But if I've been poisoned, it couldn't have been me.
I wouldn't think that at all.
But maybe you've developed an immunity to iocane powder. They were both poisoned.
What's a twist?
So, I mean, honestly, with the Twitter thing, I can kind of see it just arising naturally, unfortunately, just because, well, people are crazy.
Yeah, fandoms are toxic.
Inconceivable.
Well, don't forget, when I did high school DxD, I'm still getting hate mail for that.
Yeah.
Like horrible hate mail too. One of them said, "I hope you don't leave your house very often."
Wow, yikes.
Yeah, that one got forwarded to the police.
Yeah, that's a good
They
move.
should learn about love.
Right.
Well, the problem is
Love is what brings us together
problem is they're learning about the wrong kind.
today.
The problem is they're learning about the wrong kind of love. If you catch my drift.
That's right. Really, they need to watch more ponies. All those feels, they can't, etc.
Let's see. Moving onward. Aniplex announced that they're going to be releasing a Nekomonogatari Black and White. Both are going to be released in a limited edition type of deal, like the typical Aniplex release. The real interesting thing is that Nekomonogatari Black is going to be just $64.98, and Nekomonogatari White is going to be $74.98. For Aniplex's limited edition stuff, that's surprisingly cheap, considering that already the TV was $200, Gurren Lagann was upwards of $300 to $400.
Madoka Magica was a movie of the Madoka Magica was like $95.
For the limited edition. The standard edition was about $50, if I remember correctly.
This had better be the best movie ever. You got lucky.
Now, I'm not much of a Monogatari fan, so personally, I couldn't care less on what these tales are because I probably wouldn't buy them to begin with. But I'm actually surprised that these are actually in a range that most consumers can actually pay for. So while it's a bit more expensive, it's still somewhat affordable.
It's like, do I want to eat lunch this week, or do I want to watch one anime series?
Exactly.
No. It's more like, do I want to watch 4 episodes?
There we go. Yeah.
Anime series.
Am I willing to die for anime?
Hey, that's what ramen is for.
Well, yeah.
Ramen is for. There you go. They give us ramen so we can buy their stuff.
I destroyed my digestive system, but it was worth it, I hope.
My sodium counts through the roof, but it was worth it.
Becomes a living just block of sodium.
Hey,
Like being frozen.
that makes you valuable. When the world ends, salt will be valuable again.
You'll be a human salt lick.
Horses love me.
That's right. Just cue somebody running through a field with a whole pack of horses tearing at them.
I mean, I hope they don't love you too much.
Oh no.
Don't stop licking me.